Did you know that one of the world's most popular pizza chains was traded for a Volkswagen Beetle?
One of the brothers basically sold off his shares for a VW Bug.
That one of the founding fathers of American pizza was actually allergic to tomatoes and cheese?
This is like Beethoven going deaf and writing symphonies.
That people once thought they would die if they ate one of pizza's main ingredients? Whoa! From 30-minute delivery to 30-second ads you can't get out of your head, to the quest for the perfect permutation and combination of tasty toppings. It's a little hunk of dough that became a slice of heaven.
I think the story of pizza is the story of the United States.
The surprising history of pizza's wild rise on American Eats. It is the American pie. Pizza. Everyone has their favorite. Sausage, 4 cheese, ham and pineapple.
Peas, potatoes,
eggplant,
Peanut butter and pepperoni.
Salmon and ostrich eggs.
Here in the U.S., we gobble up 100 acres of pizza every day. That's 126,000 pies every hour.
There we go. Now this is yours for you to eat.
People eat $30.9 billion of pizza every year.
And cranking out the pies, a cornucopia of high-tech gadgets like Pizza-Matic sauce dispensers that pump perfectly measured portions on 1,500 pizzas per hour. And linear pepperoni slicers that cut enough toppings for 45 pizzas per minute.
There's been a lot of effort and technology put into trying to produce a lot of pizzas very quickly.
But there's more to pizza than just cheese. There's amore.
Pizza is all bound up with memory.
That was right. How are you? Pizza.
I was 8 years old. I used to play in the restaurant. My father would leave me there for the day. And we would play all day, have dough fights and everything in there.
It's about your childhood. It's about your first date.
Want to go for a ride?
Pizza is bound up with all these wonderful, passionate, experiential moments in your life.
When the Little League team wins a baseball game, where do they go? Let's go have a pizza party.
But pizza goes back a lot farther than our childhood memories. Originally, it was about a very simple idea, using a slab of bread as an edible plate. For thousands of years, all across the Mediterranean, people have been eating bread with stuff piled on top of it. But no one really knows where it started.
If you asked 100 different historians about the origin of pizza, you'd probably get 100 different answers. There are people who say the Romans were first. There are people who say the Phoenicians were first. Everybody stakes a claim.
But there is one thing that historians do agree on, that up until the 16th century, pizza didn't look much like the circular pies we eat today.
This is what you want.
And that's because no one in Europe had ever seen one of pizza's most important ingredients, the tomato. Tomatoes were unknown in Europe until around 1522, when Spanish conquistadors discovered them, growing wild in the Peruvian Andes and being farmed in Mexico.
They found this unusual plant that they'd never seen before, and they loaded up the ships and brought it back.
And Europeans initially were scared to death of them. They thought they were poisonous because the tomato came from the same plant as nightshade.
Nightshade was known to be poisonous, so people were justifiably terrified of eating it.
Few were willing to risk a bite, except the poor.
The poor did start eating it out of desperation. They were eating whatever they could to survive in those days.
Once they realized they wouldn't die from eating them, the lower classes started to make tomatoes a regular part of their diet. In the Italian town of Naples, by the 1700s, the tomato had even made its way onto their flatbreads or focaccias. And when that happened, pizza started to look like pizza.
If only we knew who the person was that came up with this idea. You know, this is perhaps the greatest discovery of the past 500 years in food, the guy who put the tomato on the bread for the first time.
But it was a woman who would inspire the creation of pizza as we know it today. In 1889, the Queen of Italy, Margarita of Savoy, decided that she wanted to sample this new peasant dish called pizza, and caused quite a stir.
Eating pizza was not considered queenly behavior. Pizza was identified as peasant food.
A pizza maker named Rafael Esposito was ordered to bring her a private sampling.
He prepared 3 pizzas. One was pork fat, cheese, and basil. Another had tomatoes, garlic, and olive oil. But it was the third one that she went gaga over.
Pizza as we know it today was about to be created.
Legend has it that the third pizza was designed by Esposito to represent the colors of the Italian flag. So he put mozzarella on for the white, he put tomatoes on for red, and he used strips of basil for the green.
Queen Margarita, she went nuts. She loved the 3 pizzas, especially the one that had cheese, basil, and tomato. And he was a savvy guy. He knew what he was doing. He named it the Pizza Margarita after her.
The genius here is the tomato gets incorporated with cheese. And here we have it, the combination that's magic.
And so finally, pizza, as we recognize it today, was born. Just in time to make the trip to the New World. By 1920, over 4 million Italian immigrants had arrived in America, most of them through Ellis Island and New York City.
As with most immigrations, people bring what they know, and what they know is their local food. And so pizza arrives on our shores. And it starts in New York because that's their first port.
Among the Italian immigrants looking to start a new life in New York City at the turn of the 20th century was a young baker named Gennaro Lombardi.
Gennaro Lombardi was approximately 14 or 15 years old when he came from Naples, Italy. And he started out on Spring Street with a little Italian grocery.
Neapolitan pizza was all the rage in Italy. And so being an enterprising young man, he started making pizzas.
Wasn't anything fancy, there were no toppings or nothing. And he would tie it up in a brown paper bag with string.
Lombardi's pizzas were so popular that in 1905 he gave up the grocery and opened the first American pizzeria at 53.5 Spring Street.
There were probably people making pizza before he was and selling it before he was. But he got the first license, the first business license.
Lombardi's was the first pizzeria in New York's Little Italy to cater to the needs of Italian immigrants.
That whole area was an Italian working area at the time. Soho was where all the factories were. A lot of the workers would stop in the morning, pick up a pizza, bring it to work with them, and that would be their lunch.
When lunchtime came around, the pizzas would be placed on top of radiators to warm them up. American pizzas had a slightly different taste from their Neapolitan brethren, in part because of the slightly different American ingredients. Instead of San Marzano tomatoes grown in the volcanic soil of Mount Vesuvius, local varieties were used. Instead of mozzarella made from water buffalo's milk, they used cheese made from cow's milk. But the biggest change in the flavor came from the ovens.
The pizza makers of America were utilizing what was there. And what was there were baker's ovens that were coal-fired.
And the most obvious difference between that and a wood-fired oven is the crust is softer. The Neapolitan pizzas sort of stood up at attention a little bit, and the New York pizzas drooped.
This is real New York pizza, yeah.
At Lombardi's today, the childhood buddy of Gennaro's grandson still makes pizzas in a coal-fired oven like Gennaro used 100 years ago.
I want to show you the fire. Right now, where the coals are burning is 2,200 degrees. That heat transfers over to the floor of the oven where the pies are cooking, and it goes down to about 850 to 900 degrees. And it takes 3.5 minutes. With a coal oven, you get a smoky, crusty flavor on the outside and a light, airy, if your dough is made right, a light, airy with nook and crannies all inside. So it's like biting into heaven.
Gennaro Lombardi eventually passed on the secrets to making pies in his coal oven to other aspiring pizza makers.
Gennaro would put them to work, and they learned the pizza trade. And you had Anthony Pirro from Totano's, John Sasso. After several years working with him, they decided to go on their own. It's like a tree, and Lombardi's was the root.
But the branches of the Lombardi tree didn't spread much farther than Manhattan. It was only in Italian neighborhoods where pizzas could be found. Pizza had not yet become an American food. That would happen when an upstart pizzaiolo took a chance and committed pizza sacrilege.
The sky was the limit. They could use pizza as a starting point and go in whatever direction they wanted to go in.
The cutting edge of pizza. Plus, pizza goes deep when American Eats continues. On November 10, 2005, Lombardi celebrated the centennial of making their first pizza in New York City by selling pizza at its 1905 price, 5 cents for a pie. By the 1920s, a taste sensation called pizza was catching on in New York's Little Italy. But while grabbing a quick slice is commonplace today, back then it was unheard of.
The pizzas created by these early pizza makers in the United States were only eaten by the whole pie. You would sit down and eat it as a meal.
If only there was a way to make pizza a quicker, portable meal. In 1933, a renegade pizza maker named Patsy Lancieri came up with an idea.
It's commonly accepted that Patsy's in Harlem was the first to sell slices. He saw something that no one else did.
If you sell it by the slice, maybe you make more by selling the parts than the whole.
The slice also helped drum up business for Patsy by turning pizza into its own high-profile advertising tool.
He realized that the best possible marketing for pizza was to have some guy walking down the street eating a slice of it. You walk in the other direction, you see this guy eating a slice, it looks good, you want a slice of pizza.
But not everyone reacted to the change with enthusiasm.
The old-timers thought it as a huge sin to serve their pizza by the slice. They thought of their pizza as a work of art.
Lombardi stayed with the whole pie, always. He just felt that was the way to serve pizza.
But despite a few objections, early pizza enthusiasts seemed to like their portable meal. And so did a new generation of pizza makers. A pizza pie sliced into wedges. That was the shape of things to come across the U.S.
Patsy Lancieri understood something that other immigrants didn't understand, which was we can start with something that we had in the old country. We can change it to make it American.
Not all of pizza's first American evolutions happened in New York. Just 80 miles northeast, there was another story cooking.
Most people in this country accept New York and Lombardi's as the birthplace, Mecca for pizza. The exception is New Haven, Connecticut. The hero of pizza in New Haven is Frank Pepe.
Frank Pepe arrived in America in 1909 at the age of 17 and found work in a bakery. Pepe couldn't read, couldn't write, but he could definitely make a pizza. Unfortunately, he couldn't always eat what he was selling.
The irony of Frank Pepe's story is that he was allergic to mozzarella and tomatoes, two key ingredients to pizza.
This is like Beethoven going deaf and writing symphonies.
And so he had to find a way to make pizza to his liking.
He was in a restaurant that was serving clams and all sorts of dishes, and he loved clams. So he said, why not put it on pizza? And white clam pizza was born.
When Pepe opened his own pizzeria in June of 1925, his New Haven pies, with no tomato or cheese, became a huge regional success, the first of many twists on the classic pie.
Pizzerias started to spring up in Brooklyn and in New Haven and in Boston, all in the Italian neighborhoods. But beyond that, there's still huge areas of America of which people were totally unaware of what a pizza was.
It took a world war to really open America's eyes. As the GIs traveled the battlegrounds of Europe, they found themselves stationed in the small towns of Italy, where they made a surprising discovery.
Our soldiers fell in love with pizza.
They liked it. When they came back, they started coming to Little Italy. They started looking for pizza.
If they can't find it in their town, they're going to bring it to their town. And now you have people looking into opening pizza parlors who are not necessarily of Italian descent.
Nowhere was that more true than in the city of Chicago. The year is 1943. The war isn't even over yet, and pizza is about to undergo a dramatic makeover, all courtesy of a Texas transplant named Ike Sewell.
Ike Sewell was this gregarious, sort of backslapping, good-time buddy, and he wanted to open a restaurant in Chicago.
He teamed up with local restaurateur Rick Ricardo, who wanted them to open a pizzeria.
Ike Sewell wasn't impressed with this thin-crust, rather delicate food. Being a Texan, he needed something much more macho.
More of a meal, more brawny, big-shouldered.
So they went into the kitchen, they experimented.
There's no holding back. More cheese, more sauce, more sausage, more everything. The cheese is placed on the dough and the toppings are placed on the cheese. So it's kind of reversing everything.
To support the weight of all those ingredients, the crust has to be more than an inch thick and baked for a full 30 to 45 minutes. Finally, pizza was a man's meal. Loaded with meat and cheese, they call it Chicago Deep Dish Pizza. In the basement of an old mansion downtown, Sewell and Ricardo opened their new pizza joint, named Pizzeria Uno, and at first had trouble just giving deep dish pizza away.
It was a dud right away. Nobody came in, the place was empty all the time. The people who had heard of pizza came in and said, "What the heck is this? This isn't pizza."
But as legend has it, just as his little pizza cellar is on the verge of collapse, a newspaper reporter just back from the war came in for a meal.
Got a hot story here.
He wrote about deep dish and said it was even better than what he had in Italy.
Sewell's pies took off, with lines soon ringing the block. By 1955, deep dish pizza was such a hit that Sewell opened a second pizzeria, Pizzeria Due, in a Victorian house a block away to satisfy the demand. It was a turning point for pizza in America.
Sewell and Ricardo basically gave people permission to Americanize things and do whatever the heck they wanted, and it would still qualify as pizza.
We can make it as thin or as thick or as stuffed or as high or as short as we want.
Just like with Lombardi's in New York, pizza makers from Uno eventually left to open their own pizzerias and spread deep dish pizza beyond the city.
My dad had been working for Pizzeria Uno and Pizzeria Due, and he decides, I'm going to go off on my own. And he moves to the northern suburbs, opens a place in Lincolnwood in 1971, and people are lined up out the door, around the block, down the next street over, and it's a revolution. People don't have to go down into the city and battle traffic to get it anymore.
American pizza could be anything, anywhere. Thin crust in New York, deep dish in Chicago. And as these new variations took hold, the great pizza debates began.
I think most people in Chicago would look at a New York pizza and not even consider it pizza. I mean, what is this? This is a joke.
Chicago, to me, is too thick. If you eat one slice, you're full already, and most of it is dough, you know.
New York's got the best pizza because New York still has the old tradition.
Even though they started it earlier, we got it right. And I think it's hard for New Yorkers to really admit that and to come to terms with that.
But the biggest changes were just beginning because pizza was about to be reinvented. This regional food was about to go national.
I think Americans saw pizza and got dollar signs in their eyes.
The gold rush in pizza and the rise of the pizza barons when American Eats continues. The world's largest pizza was made in South Africa on December 8, 1990. It measured 122 feet, 8 inches in diameter. The ingredients included 3,968 pounds of cheese and 1,984 pounds of tomato puree. By the 1950s, America's pizza business was booming. From main streets to middle America, Frank Sinatra to I Love Lucy, pizza, it seemed, was everywhere. But this wasn't your grandpa's pie. That's because new technology had turned pizza making from an ethnic art form into an all-American enterprise.
After World War II, there was a lot of effort and energy by a lot of food scientists across the country to develop food technology.
Americans are always looking for a better way to do stuff. Maybe it's in our gene line or something, who knows?
Now, instead of sweating over a coal-fired oven to achieve the perfect pie, pizzas could be baked unobserved in gas deck ovens. Instead of painstakingly mixing dough by hand, ingredients could just be dumped into an electric Hobart mixer.
He's going to pour 50 pounds of flour in. That Hobart mixer is going to mix that together till you get a dough. When it's done, the dough will start riding up on the mixer. Now imagine doing it by hand. Years ago, when Gennaro first started, this was all done by hand. What took 7 minutes today might have took an hour to make the same amount of dough.
The message of all this new 1950s technology was simple. Anyone can make pizza, no matter where your grandparents came from. And you didn't have to be in New York, New Haven, or even Chicago to transform pizza from mom and pop to mass-produced pop culture. You could even be in Wichita, Kansas. In 1958, brothers Frank and Dan Carney took over the lease of a bar just outside of Wichita with plans to open a pizzeria. With $600 borrowed from their mother, they bought some secondhand pizza-making equipment and moved in. They're not Italian. They don't know the first thing about running a restaurant, and they've only eaten pizza a few times. But they are about to revolutionize an entire industry. But first, they needed a name. One that would fit perfectly on the building sign.
The sign apparently had only room for the word pizza and then 3 other letters.
And it was bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom.
Dan Carney's wife said, "It looks like one of those huts up in the mountains."
And Beverly says, "How about Pizza Hut?" And we said, "Oh no, Beverly, that's terrible." I said, "This isn't Polynesian food." She said, "Well, it looks like a little hut." And we all laugh about it. And of course, she had more influence with Dan than anybody, I suppose, because the next thing I know, I drive by there and they're painting Pizza Hut up on the thing.
Pizza Hut. It's a name that would come to represent American pizza. Only 6 months after Pizza Hut opened, business was good enough to open a second hut in Wichita. 4 more soon followed, and it wasn't long before Dick Hasser, the manager of their 3rd store, approached them with a business proposal.
The Carneys had a manager in their store who wanted to open his own place, and they weren't opposed, they just didn't want it to be in Wichita.
Hasser paid the Carneys a fee for the use of the Pizza Hut name and recipes.
They trained him, and they made it exactly like the Pizza Huts that had done so well in Wichita.
When a 7th identical Pizza Hut opened in Topeka, Kansas, few recognized it as a groundbreaking revolution, but the first ever pizza franchise had just been born.
I think it's a very natural American business model to say, this is good here, why can't we replicate it here, there, and everywhere, which is what they did. They essentially kept expanding because they couldn't find a reason to stop.
Pizza Huts quickly spread throughout the Midwest as employees and friends of Pizza Hut owners bought more franchises. By 1977, Pizza Hut was a $1 billion a year company with stores all over the world, all serving up a little slice, not of Italy, but Americana.
What they did is they created a pizza that they felt would appeal to just about anybody. Pizza Hut is Pizza Hut. We don't look at it as Italian pizza. We look at it as purely American pizza, Americanized pizza.
But American pizza was just getting started. The next innovation in mass-market pies would come from another set of brothers in Ypsilanti, Michigan. On December 9, 1960, Tom and James Monahan bought a floundering suburban pizzeria named Dominic's.
They bought the rights to the property for $500. And they got about a 5 or 10 minute lesson on how to make the pizza, and that was it.
With one pizza oven, 2 tables, and a pat on the back for good luck, they were in business. Everything worked, except the luck. Often, hours would pass without a single order. Within a year, James bowed out.
He decided he wanted to get involved in that anymore and basically sold off his shares for a VW Bug.
But Tom turned things around with the help of an untapped slice of the Ypsilanti market, Eastern Michigan University.
Where students who don't have cars, they're living in dorms, would want pizza delivered to them. College campuses was the best avenue for them. So they looked for real estate around different college campuses as a way of jump-starting their business.
The meeting of pizza and college students was love at first bite. Tom had brought his business out of the red and had a plan for expansion. He also had a new name.
Dominic wanted his name back. The two brothers picked Domino's because it sounded vaguely Italian, ending in a vowel, as well as the name appeared in the phone book right below that of Dominic's.
By 1969, there were 42 Domino's. Today, there are around 7,500 worldwide. But there was one more ingredient to Domino's success: consistency. Tom knew his pizza was good. What he needed was a way to replicate that pizza all over the country. So a slice of Domino's in Des Moines tasted exactly the same in San Diego.
So the demands of pizza become different. We need to make it quickly, and it needs to be very, very uniform. This is where an industry springs up around that.
That industry was all about new machinery, the nuts and bolts of a high-tech assembly line cranking out a new generation of pizzas. First, in the early 1980s, came the conveyor oven, an automated belt-driven stove that ensured uniform temperature and cooking time.
These belt-driven ovens were the exact diametric opposite of guys in New York who doesn't take the pizza out until his inner voice tells him.
I call them idiot-proof ovens. Any idiot you can hire off the street and go, grab this pizza when I make it, put it on here and catch it on the other end.
But just like with the pizza slice, not every old-school pizza maker thought these new ovens were a good idea.
And these conveyor ovens, you don't get the right texture with it. This is not pizza anymore, guys.
The next generation of ovens used infrared technology, similar to microwaves. But the latest technology in pizza ovens comes all the way from NASA. It's known as air impingement, and it was developed in the 1980s for cooking on the International Space Station. Adapted for the pizza industry, an impingement oven cooks with jets of high-velocity hot air. These columns of air hit or impinge the pizza at 90-degree angles from both the top and the bottom as it goes through the oven. These jets of air actually blow moisture and cold air away from the pizza, baking the pie faster and keeping it crispier.
They take the air around a pizza and heat it and blow it at the highest temperature possible.
With this technology, almost anyone can churn out identical pizzas again and again. But changing the ovens was only the first step to ensuring consistency. Domino's makes sure that every store nationwide uses the same ingredients too. How? An industry-changing business model, the central commissary system.
Well, a commissary is a central location where you can make the exact same type of dough. Their sauce doesn't vary at all. You don't have some high school kid in Texas making the sauce a little bit differently from the guy down in Florida.
Domino's franchises can now turn out a quality-controlled, machine-tooled, precision-crafted pizza. It's the all-American flair for mass production.
They have, in effect, dumbed down the whole process of pizza making to a science. Nobody has to really think about it. You put it together, you bake it, and it comes out perfect every time. That is their whole philosophy. It's going to be the same every single time.
People love how reliable they are because the Domino's pizza looks, smells, and tastes the same everywhere.
But pizza's transformation was not complete yet. It still had one more American innovation up its sleeve. serving it up right at your front door.
It like blew people out of the water. Nobody was doing this.
Forget about going out for pizza. For the first time, pizza comes to you. And later, the pizza redefined when American Eats continues. On August 19, 1998, Little Caesars filled an order from the VF Corporation. 13,386 pizzas for the 40,160 employees at 180 U.S. locations. It was the largest single order ever recorded. Today, mass-produced chain pizzas are the only pizzas that many Americans know. Once obscure regional brand names like Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Little Caesars have become household words. Pizza has evolved from that little-known Italian dish into an American juggernaut, leaving the original pizzaioli all but forgotten. But pizza would never have come this far if not for one vital innovation: delivery.
I'm 33 years old, and I don't remember a time when you couldn't just call up a pizzeria and have one in half an hour.
In the 1960s, when the pizza chains first emerged, waiting around in a pizzeria for a pie to bring home didn't sit well with Americans on the move. Nobody knows who officially delivered the first pizza, but it was Tom Monahan, the creator of Domino's, who was so sure that delivery was the future of pizza that he was willing to gamble his business on it as early as 1960.
The idea of delivery at the time like blew people out of the water, I think. Nobody was doing this, and in retrospect, it seems so obvious.
Domino's can be singled out as probably the one pizzeria chain that pushed the delivery business. And I think the delivery business is really what pushed pizza from something that people knew about into one of the top 2 or 3 food contenders out there.
But at first, pizza and delivery didn't seem to go well together.
Pizzas used to be served in basically something like a cake carton, but it didn't retain the heat. The cheese would stick to something, it would get all messed up.
If Tom Monahan was going to stake his business on delivery, he was going to have to be sure the pizzas didn't arrive cold or mangled with soggy cheese glued to the top. He needed to build a better box, but instead of turning to new technology, Domino's looked to the past.
Corrugated cardboard has been around since around 1856. It was used for the base for tall hats. It's stronger than a regular box and has a thermal property that a standard box does not have.
Making pizza boxes out of this simple substance made them both sturdier and able to retain some of the pizza's heat. This innovation quickly caught on with all the chains.
You see that box and you start getting hungry, basically.
Corrugated cardboard was a good start, but it didn't keep the pizzas truly hot.
That pizza's getting colder and colder as it sits there on the seat of their car. And they said there's got to be a better way.
The answer would come in 1984, not from a seasoned pizza maker, but from a purchasing agent for a steel company in Illinois named Ingrid Kozar.
The amazing thing about Ingrid is she wasn't in the pizza business, so she wanted to find a new way of delivering a better pizza.
She started experimenting, and within a year, she applied for a patent for an insulated vinyl bag that retained more heat than a corrugated cardboard box alone. She soon began receiving orders from Domino's.
This thermal bag would be great for holding pizza, and we could make a different way of storing and keeping pizza warm.
Thermal bags did a good job of keeping heat from escaping, but by the mid-1990s, Domino's realized that the real goal was not just to keep the pizza from cooling down, but to keep adding heat to it during the drive to the customer's door. They went back to Ingrid Kozar, by then a self-taught expert. She came up with the Heat Wave bag.
Say what you will about Domino's pizza quality, they are really pushing forward in technology, and the Heat Wave bag was a big innovation.
Using patented warming devices and a special nylon material, the heating elements of these bags could be charged to keep a pizza almost as hot as when it first comes out of the oven.
There was a bag that you would plug into the wall. That bag would reach a temperature of about 175 degrees, so it created the perfect heating structure for pizza delivery.
I can foresee the delivery systems for pizza becoming almost like a mobile pizza oven where you put the pizza in there half cooked, and by the time it gets to the house for delivery, it's finished cooking.
As technology to deliver pizza hotter was being improved, another goal was being set: to deliver pizza faster. And beginning in 1973, Domino's promised just that.
Domino's came up with a contract with America that you could get your pizza delivered in 30 minutes, and if they didn't deliver on time, you got your pizza for free. Brilliant marketing campaign.
So people would order pizzas and they'd start their stopwatch, and it was like a little game trying to, get your free pizza from Domino's. I want that pizza and I want it right now.
For years, the 30-minute guarantee brought in the business. Domino's had become synonymous with fast delivery and forced the other pizza chains to try to keep up. But eventually, the speed demons at Domino's ran into problems.
There was an episode in St. Louis, a driver ran a red light, hit a pedestrian, there was a lawsuit.
I am announcing today the elimination of the 30-minute guarantee of Domino's pizza products.
Despite the formal end of the 30-minute guarantee, Domino's had already irreversibly changed the American pizza landscape. Even today, most people still assume that any pizza they order will be delivered to their door within 30 minutes of picking up the phone. And even that isn't fast enough for some. But the only way to get pizza at home any faster would be if it were already there. Pizza hits the deep freeze.
It made things even more convenient for people. I mean, only an idiot could screw that up.
And the pizzaioli strike back.
Those of us who feel that, wait a minute, we have our own tradition that's 100 years old. And I couldn't believe the stuff that they were selling. It was totally insulting.
The most deliveries ever ordered in a single night was in Los Angeles in 1994 when O.J. Simpson took to the freeways in his white Bronco, and 94 million people stayed glued to their TV sets for nearly 3 straight hours. As the big pizza chains battled over costs and automation, the pizza wars were about to move to a brand new front, the home front. The first pizza pie mix for use at home was created in 1948.
Everyone in the family did their share of spreading the cheese.
And frozen pizzas soon followed, but the taste left something to be desired.
One of the things that makes freezing pizza so difficult is the level of moisture in the product.
That moisture causes the formation of ice crystals when the pizza is frozen. When the frozen pizza is then heated in the oven, the ice melts, turning dough into mush and making toppings dull and tasteless. But even though some thought these pizzas tasted like cardboard, the first frozen pies were still successful. Beautiful. It was simply the right product at the right time.
Women were working and they're looking for faster ways to make food, and they're buying stuff in a box and TV dinners and putting them in the oven and cooking them that way.
Frozen pies were convenient, and the kids loved them. Supermarkets stocked them on the lower shelves right at kids' eye level.
There was a gold rush in the 80s and 90s among the big food conglomerates because they saw there's going to be a whole aisle in the supermarket of frozen pizzas, and if we don't get in on it, somebody else will.
By the mid-1980s, frozen pizza makers were pulling in over $100 million in sales. But the challenge remained: how to make a frozen pizza actually taste good.
Scientists at Kraft for years have been doing top secret experiments trying to make a frozen pizza that really did taste like pizza.
Finally, in 1995, Kraft introduced their secret weapon, DiGiorno. It was a frozen pizza with a brand new kind of dough. They dubbed it the self-rising crust.
Self-rising crusts are chemically leavened crusts like baking soda, baking powder, which can withstand freezing.
Frozen before the dough has a chance to fully rise, self-rising pizza crusts continue to rise when baked, making them taste much more like a fresh-baked pizza.
This is great! It was the shot heard around the world. This basically made every other frozen pizza before it obsolete immediately.
Fascinated by its rising crust, anticipating its fresh-baked taste.
Frozen pizza skyrocketed. Within 3 years, sales exceeded $2 billion annually, all because of the technology. In the factory, the entire process of making frozen pizza was refined into a synchronized whirlwind of automation, churning out 1 billion pies a year.
The line starts with a huge hopper where the dough is made, and it goes down the belt, and then there are these jets where the sauce comes down on the pizza, and then it goes on to the next thing, which is where the cheese gets showered onto it, and then it goes into an oven, and it bakes, and at the end of the line, it goes right into a freezer. Boom, 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 and it's amazing to watch one of these things. It's just an amazing piece of machinery. No human interaction whatsoever, but it's totally necessary for this type of pizza production.
But as frozen pizzas were taking off, many purists thought pizza quality overall was taking a dive. Between frozen and chain pizza, a movement began to take pizza away from mass production and back towards its origins as a handmade dish. That movement was about to turn pizza into a gourmet food, thanks to a pizza visionary named Ed Ledoux.
The god of gourmet pizza is Ed Ledoux. And that guy really, if you look at pizza as something that takes an artist to create, he's the Rembrandt.
He was just this young punk and decided he was going to try putting all kinds of crazy stuff on these pizzas and see what worked and see what didn't.
Ledoux had worked in California pizzerias since the age of 19. In 1980, he caught the eye of celebrity chef Wolfgang Puck with a pizza brushed with ricotta, pâté, and roast asparagus. 2 years later, Ledoux was in the kitchen of Puck's new high-end Hollywood restaurant, Spago, pushing pizza boundaries farther than they had ever gone before.
I think Ed Ledoux felt like a kid in a candy store. He was a guy who didn't have any ties to the past as far as traditions, and he could do whatever he wanted.
Artichokes, truffles, eggplant, asparagus, pâté. If it was in the kitchen, it wound up on his pizzas one way or another.
I mean, he fried pizzas, he sautéed them, he did all kinds of stuff. And if it didn't work, big deal.
Ledoux's creations were such a phenomenal success at Spago that soon only the biggest A-list celebrities could get a table.
It becomes the pizza for the rich and famous, and in short order, you can't get a reservation unless you know somebody.
In 1983, Ledoux parted ways with Wolfgang Puck and began teaching cooking classes. 2 years later, he received an interesting offer from Rick Rosenfield and Larry Flax, two lawyers who were looking to get into the pizza business.
Ledoux comes in with his recipe file, 250 zany pizzas that nobody's ever seen, and immediately they're like, "You're hired, you're our chef." And that was California Pizza Kitchen.
California Pizza Kitchen introduced the innovative barbecue chicken pizza. Peking duck, marinated shrimp, stuff no one had ever seen before began showing up on pizzas across the country. Haute cuisine pizza had been taken away from celebrities and given to the masses, and the masses loved it.
People's ideas about pizza started to melt away, that it didn't have to be tomato and cheese. And yeah, I can have peanut butter and jelly on my pizza if I want to, and it tastes good.
By 2005, there were over 180 California pizza kitchens worldwide, grossing close to $500 million a year.
Americans love it. But Gennaro Lombardi probably would be very confused by it and would say, what is this?
No. I stick to just traditional toppings and nothing fancy.
Pizza was never meant by God to be created in this way. Malnati's will always be the original deal, the real deal.
But despite the innovations and the change that have revolutionized the market, a new generation of pizza makers is looking to the old-timers to learn how to continue to make pizza in the traditional Neapolitan way.
What's happened in the first 100 years of pizza making in the United States is that, in effect, it's come full circle, in that you have people who are now recognizing that, yes, this is an honorable tradition and craft, and I want to do it.
Would you like to?
But while some may look to pizza's origins across the Atlantic, there's no denying that pizza today is an American food.
Pizza is sort of like an adopted child. It was born in Italy, but it was adopted by the U.S.
Italians brought pizza to America, and America took it everywhere else. And if it weren't for America's embrace of pizza over the past century, it would still be this semi-obscure Italian dish, probably.
From Naples to New York, across a continent, and back out around the world. And the journey isn't over for pizza, the American pie.